We are in the valley of the Altmühl River with a mobile home for 4 days and ride by bike from Treuchtlingen on the Altmühl River to the Weltenberg Monastery at the Danube breakthrough. Our first day begins at the Treuchtlingen train station. The old steam locomotive is still reminiscent of times when Treuchtlingen was still a traffic junction. On the way to the center of the village we pass the former moated castle. It is the birthplace of the later writer General Gottfried Heinrich zu Pappenheim. The quote from the drama Wallenstein's Death by Friedrich von Schiller is coined on him. "This is how I recognize my Pappenheimers." On a bench in the front of the town hall we first have a little refreshment, a roll with real Bavarian yellow sausage. A real pleasure. After the 30 Years' War, the local area fell to the sovereign, Margrave Karl Wilhelm Friedrich of Brandenburg-Ansbach. In 1757, he had an evangelical Lutheran church built in the so-called Margrave style on the walls of its chapel. According to Steingruber's concept, the altar, pulpit and organ are arranged one above the other on the choir wall. In the small village of Dietfurt we pass a house where a bridal couple has just got married. The well-developed cycle path takes all the turns of the Altmühl River with it. To the right and left are fields, behind them the typical rocks from the Jurassic period. The Jurassic rocks consist almost exclusively of light-colored limestone and dolomite rocks and have an unimaginable age of approximately 140 million years.
Oha. Brauchen Sie Hilfe?
Nein, nicht so meiner Karte.
Shortly before Pappenheim we meet a group of young people who have to move their canoes in front of a weir and first take a creative break. At the Pappenheim hydroelectric power station, we cross the Altmühl River. The little caravan on the corner is a China snack bar.
Ein bisschen versteckt nur.
With the thrust of my e-bike, he goes up to Pappenheim Castle. It is a ruin of a so-called spur castle in a loop of the Altmühl River. I do not have to enter because I cannot get into the castle due to Corona. Back down in the village we come across a beautiful old town in this loop of the Altmühl River with the town hall and the new castle opposite, a classicist building. It was built after 1819 by the Marshals von Pappenheim. The old castle is around the corner. In front of it is the late Gothic Protestant Church of St. Mary, which only became a town church after the Reformation. The furnishings were Baroque between 1680 and 1728 with the installation of a gallery and patronage boxes, the installation of the altar and pulpit and the organ prospect. The facade of the old castle was built in the Renaissance style. The surrounding buildings of the castle courtyard collapsed in 1953. Across the street is the bronze of the famous Marshal von Pappenheim. One of the many public facilities in this area is located at a small tributary of the Altmühl River. As we drive out of the village, we notice a green portal that belongs to an open-air church.
Die Kirche im Freien.
Zonhofen is known for its tiles and quarries. You can still find it there today. Fossilization of animals and shells, which is also available in this shop at great prices.
Das sind wahrscheinlich auch Versteinerungen, die es hier gibt.
We are still on the main rail link between Nuremberg and Munich and have to cross the train several times. And then comes the real attraction of Zonhofen, the so-called 12 Apostles. There are 12 striking rocks that stand out from the valley of the Altmühl River. It's just a shame that the sunlight is currently not illuminating the rocks. While we are crossing the Altmühl River, we keep seeing groups of young people with their canoes, sometimes well-behaved, sometimes exuberant. Maria End, the Chapel of Altendorf, is a pilgrimage church of Mary. On the Baroque high altar, around 1700, there's a late Gothic wooden Virgin Mary in the middle niche, which is dated around 1480. I have to try out the NEEP facility down in town. However, I almost get a cold shock on my feet because the water is so cold. Shortly before our today's destination in Dollnstein is a small barrage. Apparently this is both the destination and the starting point for canoe trips. On the left and right of our cycle path you can see the rocks from the Jurassic period. The castle complex with city wall from the 14th century can be seen well before Dollnstein, in which the information center of the Altmühl River is located today. A youth group is just arriving at the market square in Dollnstein. The parish church of St. Peter and Paul is elevated on a rock bank within the walled place. The core of the nave of the church is Romanesque. The choir was built in the Gothic period, as was the tower, which was given a Baroque helmet after a fire in 1728. We enjoy the evening at the beautiful campsite on the Altmühl River. Only the motorized trapeze plane disturbs our rest. And tomorrow it goes on in the direction of the district town of Eichstätt.